What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, I wanted to highlight 7 young guys under the age of 24 that seem to be taking that next step in their development. It might have taken a couple years, but it looks like they're finally turning into the high-level star NHL players that we expected. Think of Tim Stützle last year, Martin Necas, Dylan Cousins, guys that went from solid to good NHLers to actually becoming stars. Here's 7 guys that I think are in the midst of this during this season. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Up first, we got a New York Ranger and Keandre Miller. Keandre Miller is killing it this year with 7 points in 9 games thus far. And especially most recently, he has been on an absolute tear. On the Rangers' 5-game road trip, he had 6 points, including 2 multi-point nights, all plus at least a +1 in every single game. You look at Keandre Miller, he wasn't bad last year. He had 43 points in 79 games, or at least he was very good at the start. It looked like he was breaking out. Back half of the year was a little bit concerning. I even remember Ranger fans, when they were heading towards the playoffs, was like, can we really trust this guy? He's not playing that good right now. He was a complete liability defensively. He has really rounded as his game out this season, both defensively and especially offensively as that puck-moving defenseman. And when you look at the Rangers, they're going to need a guy like him to really step up as Trouba continues to regress. Ryan Lindgren's fantastic, but he's mainly just a shutdown defensive defenseman. They need that legit number 2, kind of like although they don't play together, like the Devon Tays, the Cale Makar, like that number 2 that can give you 22 to 23 minutes a night, get you 50 points, 55 points a year. That legit number 2 to kind of take some pressure off of Adam Fox. It looks like he's turning into that. He's only 23 years old right now, so I've been very encouraged from what I've seen thus far from Keandre Miller. Next up, a guy that did get called a bust a shit ton like 2 to 3 years ago, but Jesperi Kotkaniemi is really coming into his own, man. Right now, he has 10 points, 4 goals, and 6 assists in 10 games, and with him offensively, what I noticed is he's way more aggressive in terms of shooting the puck. This year, he has 26 shots on goal in his first 10 games. For those of you guys doing math at home, you Miami educated 2.6 shots per game. You compare that to his previous 2 years. He had 210 total shots on goal in 148 games. So that is under 1.5 a game. So he's just being more aggressive, and he's being more aggressive because he's playing more. He's really stepped into that number 2 center role for the Carolina Hurricanes. I was very hesitant about picking the Canes to go that far in the playoffs because they were lacking a number 2 center. Am I ready to say after 10 games, Kotkaniemi is a legit contender number 2 center? Not quite ready to go there, but it has been very encouraging. And when you look at its track record, starting at the end of last year, in his last 30 games, 11 goals, 16 assists, 27 points, 20 even strength points. And this year, obviously, his 5-on-5 numbers are very good. He's really coming into his own, and it wasn't like we slept on him. He was just not that good in Montreal, in part because he wasn't ready for the NHL. They threw him out there immediately because they took him 3rd overall. They should have waited. They should have let him stay in Finland for a while, maybe even go to Laval. But the Hurricanes have developed him right. They started him out in that 4th line role. Then the next year he elevates the 3rd line, gets 40 points. Now he's on that 2nd line. Now he's absolutely killing it. I could see him being mid, maybe even high 50s, maybe sniffing 60 points because the Canes do have the winger talent to put him with. He's been playing with Bunting, Teravainen, and Necas. He actually has some talent around him. So Kotkaniemi is really broken out, and I think is going to have a very, very good season, contrary to what we thought 2 to 3 years ago. Next up, Mason McTavish. He won my Breakout Star of the Month award. Obviously, right now he has 5 goals, 7 assists for 12 points in 10 games. He went from 22 minutes a night, 15 minutes, 22 seconds a night, to now playing about 17 and a half. So obviously upgrade in his role. And he just looks far more mature. I thought he always was like a mature player for his age, but he really looks in control of his settings, really confident in his abilities. And when you look at it, although the other 2 are playing fantastic, he's doing this with Ryan Strome and Frank Vetrano. I know Vetrano's about to win the goddamn Rocket Richard with how good he's been playing, but they are absolutely killing it. Right now, they're outscoring their opponents 10-2 at even strength play. McTavish himself has a 54% expected goals percentage. And as a result, he's led the Ducks to a great start where they're actually in a playoff position. Do I think that's going to hold? Probably not. But when looking at Mason McTavish, he has really taken that next step. It would not surprise me if he finishes the season with mid-60s points. Maybe 70s is a little bit, I think that would be a little bit overreactionary right now. But he's been fantastic. He's been clutch. He's stepped up in every moment. That Penguins winner with like 10 seconds left was absolutely insane. Mason McTavish is really developing and has a case right now for the best player in the 2021 NHL draft right now with guys like Beniers, Power, all of them. Next up, we got a guy in Wyatt Johnston that had a very good rookie year, 24 goals, 17 assists for 41 points. He has taken his game to another level, it appears. 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in just 8 games. And yeah, he had a great rookie year, obviously. 24 goals as a rookie was fantastic. But I think his playmaking has really taken another step. Last year, it was more so Jamie Benn having that career year, driving that second line, and Johnston kind of ate off him. This year, that's Wyatt Johnston's line. It's Ben, Marshman. Wyatt Johnston is stirs the drink of that line per se. So when looking at him, he's really came into his own as an overall NHL player. It would not surprise me if he's, again, like a McTavish, 60 points on that Dallas Stars team. I'm hoping that Dallas eventually, maybe because Jamie Benn's such a physical force, he won't get replaced off that power play. But I would love to see Wyatt Johnston get some power play time. Then we could be talking legitimately like mid, maybe even high 60s, because Dallas does have such a good power play. But I'm really happy in what I see in Wyatt Johnston thus far. Next up, Quintin Byfield. Quintin Byfield has really popped, well, not really popped off, but he has 6 points in 9 games thus far, and that's big for him. He has 2 goals, which he is 1 away from tying his entire goal total from last year. He only had 3 goals in 53 games, and similarly to Kotkaniemi, it's because he's shooting the puck more. His ice time hasn't gone up that much. It's only gone up, I think, like 40 seconds, but he's shooting it way more. Last year, he had 74 shots in 53 games. The previous year, 39 and 40. This year, he has 15 shots on goal in 9 games. Obviously, 2 goals. And if you're going to play with Kopitar and Kempe, you better get ready to shoot the puck. I know Kempe is kind of a sniper, but Kopitar is going to be feeding you. He's on such a good line, and he is finally pulling his weight on that top line. He is not saying he held them back last year, but he wasn't as much of a threat to score, so teams could kind of focus on Kopitar and Kempe. Oh, Byfield's out there. Remember Byfield, according coming into the season, he had 2 sprained wrists all of last year. Based on what I saw in him in the Toronto Maple Leafs game that I watched the other night, he looks like a completely different player. He's finally using that skill that we saw at the junior level, total body control at 6'5", with the skill that he has. It has been very impressive to see, and I think with Kopitar and Kempe, honestly, he should be mid-50s this year. That's not that crazy. But you know Kopitar is going to get 70. Kempe is going to score 35, 40 goals. I think the bar right now for Quintin Byfield, based on the fact he already has 6 and 9, I'm expecting mid-50s. I don't think that's that ridiculous. And I think he easily can do it. Next up, a guy that I highlighted in a previous video, Seth Jarvis, right now has 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points in 10 games. And he's always been an advanced stats god. I think the last 2 years he's been in the top 20% of even strength defense and offense. But the problem was last year, he still scored 14 goals, but he shot a horrendous 7.5%. Compare that to his rookie year when he shot 15.5. Well, this year, he's back to a normalish 14.3%. As a result, has those 4 goals in 5 games. I think he's a threat for 30 and 30 this year. Brendan Moore kind of has stapled him to Aho. He's on Aho's wing for basically every shift this year, which obviously is going to be very good for his point totals this year. And yeah, I just really like Seth Jarvis. He's a physical guy. He gets in those dirty places, fishes out pucks for Sebastian Aho. And I think on that Carolina top line, especially now that Svechnikov's back, if he plays Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, it's not one of the best lines in all of hockey, but that is an elite line, especially for Seth Jarvis to take that next step. I think Seth Jarvis, I said in my hot take video, 65 points for Seth Jarvis. That's how far I'm going with Seth Jarvis. I think he's going to take that next step. Last year was just very horrible puck luck. He was in like the bottom 2% of finishing according to JFresh. That's not the case this year. He actually is putting pucks on net, and some pucks are actually going in for once. And the last guy I want to highlight, if I'm going to do a New York Rangers defenseman at the start of the video, I'm going to close it on a New York Islanders defenseman. Noah Dobson has 9 points in 7 games as of right now. He obviously had 51 his second year in the league, then 49. So it's not like, similar to Miller, it's not like a massive breakout, but Noah Dobson has improved his defensive game a ton this year, in my opinion. You look at it, Lane Lambert last year deployed Noah Dobson to start his shifts 65% of the time in the offensive zone. This year, it's only 52%. Lane Lambert is trusting Noah Dobson more in both zones, and it's in part because he's playing with Pelech instead of Romanov, which Romanov is a pretty defensive defenseman, but He's trusting him way more. Dobson is playing 25 minutes a night this year to start the year off. Last year was not close to that. He's really became that number one defenseman because Pelech is not looking like the same Pelech that we have seen in previous years. So I'm looking at Noah Dobson. We always knew he had the offensive talent. If you give him more ice time, I think he could go for like 60 while also being much better defensively this year. He's really coming into his own as that number one defenseman. We thought after his second year when he had 51, he would become that legit number one defenseman. The third year or second year after that breakout was kind of disappointing, but it seems like he is tracking back to that number one that we thought he was going to be one day. And we need that. I love Pelech. I love Polak. Those guys are not offensive defensemen. Those guys are purely defensive defensemen. Polak has a little bit of offense with that shot, but we needed that number one offensive defenseman, and it appears like Noah Dobson is finally turning into that. There's the jokes with the Islanders fans that, if you don't know, he blocked like a bunch of Islander fans on Twitter. Then he said he got hacked, and then he deactivated the Twitter. I don't know if that's legit or not, but ever since he did delete his Twitter, he's been absolutely killing it. So stay off social media, Noah Dobson. And those are my picks: Noah Dobson, Keandre Miller, Kotkaniemi, Jarvis, McTavish, Byfield, Wyatt Johnston, all guys that are taking that next step to eventually become stars in the NHL, and by the end of this year will be regarded as very good NHL players. Let me know in the comments, though, what are some picks? What are some other guys that I'm maybe overlooking that you would have on this? Just thinking of some guys. Lucas Raymond probably fits this bill, playing on that top line. There's probably a bunch of other, but let me know in the comments. What do you think about my picks? Who else would you add? And I'll see you in the next one.